Very much for inviting me here today to be able to speak to you a little bit about my role as an ambassador for the Royal British Legion, but also about my journey to bring me to this point today, being in front of you all. I think it's really important for me to try and explain to you how the Royal British Legion has helped me, and clearly how you all today are able to help them to help people like me. As an ambassador today, you can see me stood in front of you as a net result of the help that the Royal British Legion's been able to give to me and many other people like me. In 2022, I was able to take part in the national campaign for the Poppy Appeal, and that really was a culmination for me of this recovery journey which I went on over the last 6 or 7 years. So you can see there a photograph of my commissioning parade into the Cheshire Regiment in 2006. It was a very proud moment for me. I was able to commission into my own county regiment, and then I went on to have a really successful but very busy operational period over the next 10 years, until sadly it was cut short with a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder in 2016. Just a little bit about my military service. As I said, I went to Sandhurst in 2006, commissioned into the Cheshire Regiment, which later became the 1st Battalion of the Mercian Regiment. And very quickly, I started on this cycle of operational tours and exercises around the world. High tempo operations, there was quite a lot of kinetic activity. I was blown up 3 times in various IED blasts and also shot at, and so there was quite a lot of traumatic things that were going on in this period, as well as trying to do my job as a platoon commander in an infantry unit, and also be a father, be a husband, and all of these other aspects of life, which unfortunately just became too much stress for me to be able to deal with. And that's what sadly led to me abruptly leaving the army in 2016. It's important to note on this as well that for me, as a child growing up, all I wanted to do was be in the army. It was my only dream, it was my only ambition. And so when I got to do that, I fulfilled that dream. And as far as I was concerned, I was going to stay in that role until I was retired. Like so many people in my peer group and those before, I was sadly afflicted by a condition which is known as post-traumatic stress disorder. And I want to talk to you a little bit about my understanding of the condition, because I know that in previous generations, people would perhaps try and have a stiff upper lip or, not talk about the issues that they were facing. Whereas my generation, I think it's become a bit more acceptable to try and find help. And I want to be an advocate of change in that particular regard, because we can never move forward if we continue to allow ourselves to be trapped by these things that hold us back. So post-traumatic stress disorder, some people will think it's where you've had an incident and then you hear a loud bang and you hide under the table. Some people might think it's a flashback or a scary nightmare. Now, they are symptoms, but they're not the only symptoms. For myself, it became the inability to deal with stress, and it manifested it in ways which I would have never expected, such as what colour bin to put out on a Friday, or how I was going to get around a busy Asda supermarket or a shopping centre. These are just normal levels of stress that anyone else could deal with, but I no longer could. That was when I knew something was wrong. The stress levels were high. I've since been diagnosed with a permanent severe condition of post-traumatic stress, and so I will live with this condition for the rest of my life. However, fortunately, I've been able to learn what my triggers are and how I can manage the symptoms. How the Royal British Legion helped me initially, though, was they picked me up when I was at my absolute lowest ebb. I'd been in this career that I loved, that I'd worked my whole life towards. I had prestige, I had a great income, I had a great career ahead of me. And then overnight, I was back home in Manchester and I had nothing. I didn't have an income. I didn't get a medical pension at the time. I didn't have any sort of way forward or any clarity on what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And it was an absolute struggle. The only way I really was able to start moving forward was when I got a knock on the door randomly off a volunteer from the Royal British Legion. And he came to me and he said, "I've heard that you're an ex-military person living in my area and that you've been struggling. So I wanted to come and have a coffee. Is that okay?" And I was a bit unsure because I didn't really want to see anyone at the time, but I let him in. And that kind of just grew from there, from that point that this individual showed me some humanity and compassion to where I am today. I'm not saying I'm fully recovered, but I'm certainly a lot better than I was, thank you to the Royal British Legion. Thank you to your help. And so he encouraged me as well to go on what's called the Battleback course, and you've heard that being discussed as well. It's a really important programme based on sporting endeavour, where you take individuals with shared experiences, and through the process of learning a new sport, you start to teach them about rebuilding their own confidence, rebuilding their own sense of achievement, sense of purpose. And so that battle back course for me was a pivotal moment. And so I'm forever grateful to be able to go on to that. And it actually ties in a lot with what I do now. They also gave me white goods. You know, can you believe that someone giving you a fridge when you don't have a fridge and you haven't got any money to put food in the fridge, how important that is to you? Well, it was for me. You know, the volunteer who came round to speak to me, he said, look, I've noticed you've not got a fridge, perhaps we can sort you one out. And I didn't know that the Royal British Legion did that, but they do. And they help many, many people with things like that, and washing machines and other, you know, articles which are so essential just to live in that, you know, without, actually it's a real challenge. They gave me financial advice. They told me about how I could start saving, how I was able to start to rebuild my finances after being in a lot of debt when I left the military, to getting to a point where I cleared it all up and I'd made sure that I wasn't getting into any worse financial circumstances. And almost as equally important, they taught me about the process of dealing with my Armed Forces Compensation Scheme compensation. And that's been a long process, but it eventually got to the point of completion with the help of the Royal British Legion. And just being able to talk you through this quite daunting process, which I know a lot of people have struggled with, it is phenomenal in itself. You can see a photo of me here in my latest sort of enterprise, which is called Cockleshell 2-2. Prior to that, I set up a enterprise called Project Recce, and this was based on my own experience of wanting to give myself that sense of purpose, that sense of worth by earning again. I'd identified that the construction industry was able to cater for a lot of the transferable skills of most service leavers, and so set up a pathway into the construction industry for people like myself. And actually it became really successful across a national level. And by giving people the opportunity to start a new career in the construction industry, it all of a sudden allows you to start earning, start being able to provide for your family, start to give you that new future beyond the military. And it was really successful, and it continues to be so. So after someone's got the money and they're able to rebuild their life, they need to be able to maintain their wellness. And my belief, which you would have heard from the recovery services today, is that sporting endeavour with like-minded people is the key to that. So Cockleshell 2-2 is something that we set up last year to honour the 80th anniversary of a famous raid in World War II called Operation Frankton. We went and learned a significant amount of information about this historical raid, and then went and recreated the trip in Bordeaux last year. It was an arduous expedition, but we were able to raise a significant amount of money for the Royal British Legion, as well as raising awareness of this famous historical raid, and also taking a group of individuals who all will have benefited from this expedition. It was so successful that we decided to turn this into a community interest company, and we're continuing to do such like endeavours now. And so next year we're going to be recreating the Heroes of Telemark raid over in Norway, and then the following year we're going to be going out to the Falkland Islands, recreating an expedition based on the Pebble Island raid. So there's so much opportunity to do recovery sports, to inspire other people to do whatever they think is going to work for them and others, but also just through this connectivity with each other, be able to raise money, be able to look after our own mental and physical well-being, and have a good time. And that is all only possible through the legacies and the wills that are being gifted to the Royal British Legion by all of yourselves. So thank you very much for listening to me, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon.